Willkommen zurück auf den Kanal. Welcome back to the channel. Ich bin Lang. I'm Lang.
Wassalamu alaikum. Welcome back to the channel. J'espère que vous allez bien. I am a dog.
And today, what we're going to be doing is narrating, telling you guys our story of how we met, also our language journeys, and our experience in EF Paris, which is, spoiler alert, where we met. So, yeah.
Yeah, and before we get into the video, please make sure to subscribe and like our content as we get views and you get free content. What could go wrong? Anyway, so Lang, delve into basically your history of growing up, your interest and fascination in languages, and eventually how you started studying French and went to EF Paris.
Yeah, so basically, I was born in Madrid, the capital of Spain. And my two native languages are Spanish, which of course I learned while growing up. And when I was 5 years old, I moved to the United States of America, to Houston, one of the biggest cities in Texas. And from there, I learned English for 3 years. And then when I was 8 years old, I came back to Spain. I've always had a long-term interest in languages. When I was 9 years old, around 8 or 9 years old, I started learning German at school as an extracurricular activity because I was very interested in the language. I wanted to know a little bit about it. But soon after I started, about 1 year into German, I quit because I found it uninteresting. So that's kind of ironic. So when I was 12 years old, later on, as I already said, I started learning French. And I've been learning French ever since. So that means that I've been learning French for a total of 4 years, almost 5 years now. I've also learned quite a little bit of Latin, but I stopped learning it because it's kind of hard, and it's also a pretty harsh language with a lot of inflection cases, and I feel like it wasn't worth my time. But I feel like what I did learn is really useful, and I really enjoyed doing that. And so, can you tell us a little bit about your story now?
Yeah, of course. So I was born here in America. And of course, I only grew up speaking English. But the twist of the story is that actually, even though I only grew up speaking English, I had a very hard time learning English when I was younger. It's very strange because now one of my goals in life is to publish a book. I'm a creative writer. I do journalism. I've published short stories. But when I was younger, for some reason, it was really hard for me to actually learn English. It was hard for me to read. It was hard for me to write. And it was hard for me to speak. I developed all those skills about 5 years late compared to the other students. So that was kind of my experience growing up. And no one ever discouraged me to learn a language. I was never discouraged in learning a language at all. It's just it was never really brought up because it was always kind of clear or always kind of understood, I guess, that I should only speak English and that I should only try and focus on, you know, expanding my English abilities because I struggled with that. So it always seemed like throughout life I would only speak English and that's all that I should be bound to. I should only speak English. However, something really strange happened in middle school. When I was in middle school, I had no clue what happened, but all of a sudden, I guess my brain just expanded and I took the red pill or something because I started really loving literature. I started really loving to read and write and becoming really creative. And the program I was in, what they do every 3 years, they make it so that the kids in the program, they take a test to see if they can get out the program or not, and they usually only let 0 to 1 kid out of 100 leave every 3 years. And so in seventh grade, I was the only kid to leave. It was just me because I just improved my abilities so much somehow. And it made me realize that I could actually do a lot with my life, but I was still pretty behind compared to the other kids. I went into high school, and here in America, you have to take a language course, a foreign language, for at least 2 years out of your 4 years in high school. Here in America, in most places, they only offer two languages. That's Spanish and French. And so me, being the pretentious Giga Chad that I was, I chose French. I didn't really learn French. I got passing grades, but it's just the school system didn't really work for me. My teacher was great. My teacher was probably the best teacher I ever had, but the learning environment just wasn't for me. And also, a very important factor to know is that COVID had just ended at that time, and COVID really impacted the education system. So us kids were kind of behind. I transferred schools and going into 11th grade. I decided to take my third year of French. I noticed that all the kids were kind of ahead of me because it was a different school, different curriculum. But I still passed. I still got good passing grades. But at that point in my life, I realized that as an American, I feel like we're monolingual is basically just the it's basically just the
Well,
theme of the
yeah.
story. We're just
Well, yeah.
monolingual.
That's the stereotype,
Yeah, yeah,
isn't it?
it's a very depressing life. We don't have another language that we usually grow up with, and I realized that I really do want to explore the world. I really do want to experience another culture, and I don't want to learn a language anymore to just try and get a grade. So, at the turn of 2024 this year, so literally on January 1st, I made a New Year's resolution to learn French, basically. So, I started from scratch and I basically self studied French for 6 months. So, I would self study French on my own at home, and then at my school, when I had class, I would practice speaking with my native French teacher. And within 2 months, I was ahead of every single one of my classmates. Before then, I was asking help for my
Nice.
classmates on how to do things, but now everyone was asking me, even native speakers. There was this one girl who was taking the class because she was a native speaker, but she wasn't really good at writing. And she was asking me questions because I just self studied the language by myself. And it shows that when you really have motivation for something, that you'll do it. So I basically started self-studying the language for 2 months, January and February of this year. I took a break for about 3 months because school got harder. I had to get a job, so that got really hard to do it at the same time. So I kind of took a break, and then in
Yep.
June I
Yep.
started doing it again. So it took me 3 to 6 months to learn French, and that's my very long story.
And thank God you learned French, because otherwise we would have never had met. Because as we all know, we met in EF Paris. I believe the first day we saw each other was July 1st in class, or July 2nd. I can't really remember. But I do remember it was a Tuesday, and so I was the only guy in class. I was literally surrounded by girls who obviously had a pretty high level of French, because we were in B2 level. And what I remember is being surrounded by girls, and then suddenly the class starts. The teacher is also female, so I'm like, bro, I'm not getting out of here. And 5 minutes into the class, suddenly there's a knock on the door, and we all turn our heads, and it's this guy who seemed to be like lost, and he was like, "Oh, is this B2 French?" And we were all like, "Yeah." And so the teacher was like, "Come in." And he sat right next to me, because there was a free seat next to me to my right. And so from the first minute, I really remember that we really got along. From the first minute we met each other. I don't I don't I don't I don't know if you also remember that moment. What do you remember from that moment?
What I remember from the moment, I remember the moment so well. I was running late, so I was on time actually to get to the class when I entered EF, but I didn't know where to find it, so I went the wrong way. And so I was 5 minutes late because then I eventually found out where to go. And I remember entering the classroom and it was just like, it felt like a board meeting of just like women. It was just girls. And I turned my head scanning for an open seat. And then I just see this one little guy right here sitting down. And there was a free seat right next to him. So I sat right down next to him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I immediately just connected him and started talking. Like I don't remember the lesson immediately starting. So I just had a conversation with you. And I immediately started thinking, okay, this guy's probably pretty smart. And there's actually a good reason why I thought this. Well, one, it was all girls, right? There was like so many of us. There was like 20, maybe. How many was in there?
Yeah.
18, 20?
Yeah, I think we were like close to 20, like around
Yeah, there was like
20
20
students.
students. So there would be 18 girls, and there would be me and you. And so and that's why I thought you were
Yeah.
pretty smart because, well, you're the only boy in there, so obviously it's predominantly female. But also, I've already had that experience where I was the only man in my class. and when I transferred schools and I went to French 3, there was about 15 girls and there were about 3 guys. And by when next semester rolled around, I was the only guy. So it shows that I don't know if it's something to do with gender or any of that spiel, but it's just to show that I was basically the only guy in that class learning French. And I guess that also translates to EF Paris when we were the only guys in that class. So I immediately found you interesting. And I just talked with you, and you told me that you were from Texas and stuff, and that you grew up speaking Spanish. When we actually first met, I said something to Spanish to you. I said like no hablo español. Did you think that I spoke Spanish in that moment? Did you think that I spoke Spanish? Did you think that or no?
Well, I don't really remember. I do know that later on you did attempt to speak a little bit of Spanish to me, but I can't really recall if you did that in that exact moment. But yeah, we just like the conversation we had was just like really fun, and we had a lot of points in common. And so and we started talking about all of these languages like Dutch, German, even Chinese, which is a language we both really want to learn in the future. And so we had a lot of points in common from the very beginning. And so after that class, I don't really remember if we hung out that day, but like 2 or 3 days later, we definitely hung out with a Belgian friend as well. And so 3 weeks passed by, or not 3 weeks, 2 weeks because Mikey left a week earlier, and Mikey graduated a week earlier than me. And so if you want, you can show them your certificate if you have it with you.
I don't have it with me, but I can record a video after where I show them my certificate,
Alright.
or put it in a photo.
And yeah, I graduated a week earlier, and so I have this EF certificates I got. Yeah,
So
graduated B2 level in EF Paris. 1 week later.
but it was kind of sad to leave a little bit early. I recommend if you go with EF or any study abroad program, go for at least like 3 weeks. If it matches with your financial capabilities. I don't think 2 weeks was really not enough. You missed me? I hope you did. You missed me, right?
Yeah, I did. When I saw you leave with the Paris subway, Paris Metro, yeah, it really like hurt. I was kind of feeling, yeah, I was feeling the nostalgia in that moment, even if we were seeing each other obviously, but I feel like at that point I was losing, or not losing, but it wasn't gonna be the same thing without you, because you were like a really good friend to me, of course. And so it wasn't fun. That moment wasn't fun, but we're trying our best to try to see each other next year in EF Berlin. We'll try to make that happen, guys. I hope it does happen, and if so, we're gonna have like such a blast over there and learn German and go to the same class. And so yeah.
Yeah, so that was a very sad moment leaving you, but it also shows the importance of learning languages. Even if you meet people that you'll eventually have to leave, you'll always remember those moments. Me and Ped were able to have those moments because we overcame certain challenges in learning languages. If we both didn't decide to start learning French and both didn't decide to go to EF Paris, because you can learn French with EF, but you can go to there's Nice, there's Paris. What else is there? Saint Raphael.
There used to be Saint Raphael, but I think they closed the EF there, like I heard from a friend. And so I think, yeah, that's where I went 2023. But I think apart from Paris and Nice, there's no other destinations in France. Yeah.
Between Paris, Nice, and Saint Raphael. So if we didn't both choose Paris, both learn French, and both somehow get the same level in French, we wouldn't have met. So it's just really cool stuff like that happens in your life when you open yourself up, when you get rid of your comfort zone and when you travel the world.
Yeah, that's proof that that's proof of the importance of language learning. Like, language learning isn't just about uh, actually learning a language, which obviously is the main goal, but it's also about opening your mind to other cultures. And if you're financially capable, like Mikey said earlier, maybe do some language trips like we did, and you'll meet a lot of amazing friends. Like, that's definitely something that you will not regret. And those people who you will meet, you'll remember for a long time. As I will remember Mikey, of course, and hopefully we will be able to see each other. But yeah, yeah, that's basically it.